Thank you for watching this presentation. Over 84% of deaf and hard of hearing students are educated in mainstream school settings. These students often receive services from an itinerant teacher of the deaf, like myself, and are talked to about many different topics, such as self-advocacy and self-concept, maintaining personal equipment and amplification, deaf history and deaf heritage and culture, their accommodations, and transitional skills. The itinerant teacher also supports what's being taught in the general education classrooms. In order to do this, the itinerant teacher must figure out how to incorporate both in an environment where time is not always on our side. As an itinerant teacher, this is a struggle that I have faced as well. I wanted to create and implement a unit that allowed me to address and support general curriculum goals while using the expanded core deaf and hard of hearing competencies and resources. Furthermore, addressing deaf and hard of hearing competencies such as deaf culture and deaf heritage is important. If the itinerant teacher does not address these issues, who will? Throughout my presentation, I will address the relevance of the topic, share my unit plan and activity plan, share and discuss student work products, and I will offer some suggestions to other itinerant teachers of the deaf and how they can implement units similar to this in their schools with their students. So the driving question of this project was, how can we address general curriculum goals using expanded core materials for deaf and hard of hearing students? And furthermore, how can we deliver lessons that spark discussions on topics that our students are interested in while we're using these standards? Throughout this course, we've had many discussions, and I've reflected upon my teaching and what I'm covering with my own students in my schools, and I realized that I hadn't addressed deaf history in any of my lessons with my students before. I had always been a little bit nervous and hesitant to talk about this topic, especially with students that this might not always apply to, like my hard of hearing students who may not be involved in the deaf community, but I thought that this was important for my students to know about. So I wanted to focus on addressing the DHH goals, which reinforce this teaching of the deaf history and deaf heritage within the expanded core curriculum, and at the same time addressing the general curriculum goals that are set out on the student's IEP. And the product of this project will be a unit. So I will create a unit which focuses on a novel entitled Saving Emily, and I will incorporate the ELA standards, the DHH expanded core curriculum competencies, and the student's IEP goals. In order to maintain the student's privacy, I'm going to refer to her as B throughout this project. And she's in 9th grade, she's hard of hearing in a mainstream school, and I pull her out of a learning strategies class for 90 minutes a week, and we address the goals that are listed right below. You'll see the orange arrows pointing towards them. So her goals are to read from grade level passages, which is what we're addressing with this novel, and she's going to be identifying vocabulary in her reading that she does not understand and define those words on flashcards for comprehension. So I didn't write this goal, however we do need to address it since it's on her IEP, so I'm going to kick it up a notch. For lack of better term, I am going to have her use Quizlet, which is an iPad application, to create those flashcards so she can review it at any time on her smartphone and have it at her convenience. And then at the bottom here is our title of the unit, which is Deaf History, Saving Emily. So please take a moment to read the goals that are listed on this slide. There is the Language Arts Florida Standard and the DHH Expanded Core Curriculum competencies that were addressed throughout this unit. I wanted to create a unit in which the student could delve into the story and focus on a character analysis and compare and contrast two main characters of her choice. So after we read the first chapter, she selected her two main characters and she identified how the characters interacted. We did a compare and contrast, which you'll see in upcoming slides. She did a Venn diagram and a T-chart. And then she also analyzed the characters and how their interactions drove the plot of the story. And she's going to express herself in writing. So she will use graphic organizers of her choice throughout this unit, which you'll see later. And she will participate in discussions about the events of the story and the actual historical events that impacted the deaf community. And she and I will be having those discussions one-on-one, but throughout our discussions so far, it's been extremely effective and she has been very engaged. So a little bit about this book. Saving Amelie is about a woman who has to protect and hide a young deaf child, Amelie, in Germany, 1939. Her father is an SS officer who despises young Amelie for being genetically unsound. This novel opens up for discussions about World War II, eugenics, persecution of multiple minority groups, including people who are deaf or hard of hearing. The plot is set up with many dramatic events which keep the reader's attention. Each session we met, Bea and I tried to cover one chapter. However, as time went on, we were reviewing what we had previously read, her notes on the characters, and were discussing some of the topics that were previously talked about in the text as we worked towards her character analysis. This took up some time. However, she was engaged during the discussions and they were worth having. On this slide, you'll also see a link for the unit overview. So if you would like, you can click on the link and it will take you to the Google document in which you can view the entire unit and the standards that I used on a day-by-day basis. And then you can return to my presentation by simply pressing escape or closing out your internet browser. The next several slides you're about to see are some of the students' work products throughout this unit. On this slide you'll see her character notes, in which the student did very rough jotting down of quick facts about the characters as I was reading one day. And on the other side you'll see a comprehension check and a writing sample that I collected from the student as an exit ticket. Both of these are example of exit tickets for the day. On this slide you'll see some more of the students' work products. There are two graphic organizers, a Venn diagram and a T-chart, that the student selected out of a list of graphic organizer options that I provided her. And she's used these before. These are the two that she was most comfortable with. And this is one of the final work products of the student that I have. And this is our character analysis of one of the main characters, Gerhard Schlick, and he is Amelie's father, who is a SS officer, and he does not like Amelie, as we've previously identified. He does not believe that he's done his duty to his country by having an imperfect child. So, as you can imagine, this sparked many interesting discussions with the student, but it was interesting to see her reaction. She found it really hard to believe that somebody who was like her was once persecuted just for being different. So this character is her favorite, even though he's the most horrible, because she finds him the most interesting, as he believes something that she's never considered. This is the final work product of Bea throughout this character analysis, and this is her second character analysis worksheet on Rachel Kramer, who is one of the main characters as well in this story, and she is a woman who we've heard a lot about, but we're not really sure how she's going to fit in with Emily. But we do know that she was previously betrothed to Gerhardt, so that brings in the dramatic aspect of the story. And she also has been going to these galas in which her father, who is a eugenics scientist, goes to speak at. So she has an interesting perspective on things, and she brings up a lot of good conversations as well. So again, the relevance of this unit is to address a few things. We want to address deaf history and deaf heritage, and right now we are reading this novel, which is bringing up a lot of good points about historical things that have happened to deaf people. As we continue and we work on completing this novel, we'll further discuss how these events have impacted and continue to impact people who are deaf and hard of hearing. The language arts Florida standards are grade-based, so she is doing work that she would be doing in an English language arts class. So this is a good practice for her. And also she's using English sentences and paragraphs while she's analyzing these characters, which is a good writing practice for her as well. B, in addition to being hard of hearing, is also dyslexic. So reading is not something that she really enjoys, but she does enjoy being read to. So I read this book with her aloud. We did do a lot of discussions, and she followed along on her own copy of the book. I allowed her to write inside of the book and highlight and dog-ear the pages. So our copies are a bit tattered, but out of good use. And so I put a quote here. This is pulled from Gallaudet University, and it says that students of all ages, whether they're deaf or hard of hearing, can enjoy and benefit from read-alouds. So even though she's in high school, she does enjoy being read to, and it gives her time to focus on the story and write down and take notes throughout. And then the second quote here is about the use of graphic organizers, which I've used and incorporated throughout this unit as well. And I believe that it keeps the students' attention, and according to this quotation here, that it does help with the students' understanding and recall and retention and summarization of main ideas, which all helped when we were trying to analyze these characters. Even though this unit goes past the confines of this project, I am going to continue to read this book with the student. She's really enjoying it, and we've had a lot of good discussions with this, so we're going to continue to work on this as well. Children of all ages can benefit from read-alouds, and this is supported by research, and I've seen it firsthand with B during this unit. This unit incorporated standards from both the general curriculum and the expanded core competencies, and supported IEP goals in one inclusive unit. So teachers of the deaf can incorporate general curriculum goals into the DHH service time, and this is going to benefit the student across subjects. Not only will it benefit the student during DHH session time, but also in language arts and history, and their confidence overall in their ability to use the strategies that we've taught them.